Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Wilson Stribling. Welcome to another edition of At Issue, where we discuss and debate the issues facing the state of Mississippi and how these issues impact you. It's the 7th week of the 2019 legislative session, and lawmakers are figuring out how to spend the state's $6.1 billion budget. As they hammer out initial budgets for state agencies, lawmakers are debating how to fund a teacher pay raise that's estimated to cost $25 million, and also fund a raise for state employees. About 25,000 people work for the state, and for many this would be their first raise in more than 10 years. Senate Appropriations Chair Buck Clark, a Republican from Hollandale, tells MPB's Desiree Frazier it's toward the end of the legislative session when lawmakers can better gauge the revenue estimate. Based on the most recent tax collections, if the estimate is higher for the upcoming fiscal year, Clark says only then could it provide funds for a state employee's salary increase.
Department of Corrections officers, social workers at Department of Human Services, Department of Health, Department of Mental Health, those caregivers, we're looking at all of them, and we're hoping when maybe we get a revenue estimate adjustment that maybe that money will be there.
There's some that's saying there's not enough money for employee raises.
Well, not right now, not with the money that we have. After as I mentioned this morning and yesterday, that we had 159 to allocate. The first thing we did was make sure each agency could cover the retirement increase. Our retirement system asked for a 2% increase from the employer. Well, that equals $62 million. That took the first $62 million of 159. Well, then there's always discussion, well, how does this agency stand as compared to last year? So we said, well, let's just go ahead and plus them up to make sure they're level funded with the PERS increase. Well, that was another $41 million. So really we had spent $103 million just doing those things, just covering the retirement and just getting them to last year's level. So after that, we added $25 million for the teacher pay raise, which we passed that bill in the Senate last week. So something we've passed, gee whiz, we got to put the money in, to do it. So we did that one. So now we're up to about $28 million. And the other items we paid for our property insurance, which we pay for as a deficit usually. We put more money into Medicaid. We put more money into Child Protection Services, Department of Health, Department of Mental Health, several places like that used up the rest of that, about $20-something million. It went quick. And again, each one of those items we plussed up, it was not as much as they're asking for, and then still use that money up, and there was no room anymore for a general pay raise for all the state employees. Again, in March, the Revenue Estimating Committee will be meeting again, and they'll be looking at our collections we've had so far this year, which have gone great. We've collected more, we're about $90 million ahead from where we expected. So they'll look at that and, make a revenue adjustment for next year, and that may bring us more money. And obviously everybody has that pay raise on their mind, and that'll be one of the first things considered.
Lawmakers are working to see if and how much of a pay raise can be set aside for both teachers and state employees. The Senate has already approved a $25 million pay raise for teachers, an average of $500 per teacher for the upcoming fiscal year. House Appropriations Chair John Reed is a Republican from Goshen.
And I do believe that there's a raise for the teachers. There'll be a raise for the state employees. How much, there again, we'll be looking into it, and how we're going to do it. We're coming up with several different ways we can do it. And so I think that before we go home, I would like to see both of them get a raise.
Any idea for state employees how much that might be? I know for teachers, it's $500 per year.
That's in the bill. Now, that there again, we're going to be looking at numbers, and whatever the numbers we feel like that we can operate with, we're going to do. We would like to just give the world, but it's a situation you have to address, and I'm going to tell you what, on our end of the building, we love teachers and we love school nurses, we love everything, but there's been some state employees that have been bypassed for quite a while, and we've got to help them because they are a key opponent to us surviving.
Democratic Representative John Hines of Greenville said in debate on the floor that he is not willing to wait until the end of the session. Hines said there's enough revenue available in reserves to provide the pay raise. Hines offered an amendment on Tuesday to provide an annual $1,000 increase for 3 years for state employees.
This is not a lump sum at one time. This is a slow step process to give state employees an opportunity to receive a pay raise. What's wrong with that? Most of you would vote for your own pay raise if you wasn't scared. But now you got a chance to do something for the people who vote for you. You need to think about this. This is a small step to improving the quality of lives for the people who provide services that you gonna call and ask them to do something for you so you can take care of somebody back home. And you know you're gonna pick up the phone and call them. You're gonna pick up the phone and call somebody at the Department of Human Services. You're gonna pick up the phone and call somebody at the Department of Public Safety. You're gonna pick up the phone and call somebody at Medicaid. You're gonna pick up the phone and call somebody at the Department of Rehab. You're gonna pick up and call somebody at the Department of Forestry. You're gonna pick up the phone and call somebody and ask them to help you. But, oh, you don't wanna help them. Hypocrisy. Let's do what's right for a change.
Hines' amendment failed. Another debated issue on the House floor this week was House Bill 1650. It would provide about $917 million for the state division of Medicaid. But some Democratic legislators challenged their colleagues to bump up funding for one program. At issue producer Ashley Norwood has more on that.
Democrat Omeria Scott of Laurel argued for more funding for Medicaid's home and community-based waiver program. She says there are 17,800 slots and a long waiting list for assistance. The program provides at-home care for the elderly, the developmentally disabled, and others with special needs.
This program will allow for you to have a little respite, that you could go and pay your bills, that you can go do a little shopping, that a mother can go and have her hair cut or her nails done. Not running around all over, but just a little respite.
Scott wanted to take at least $10 million from one of several other pots of money she said hasn't been allocated and use it for the waiver program. Democrat Steve Holland of Plantersville offered an amendment to take $5 million from Medicaid's $917 million budget and give it to the waiver program.
If the home and community-based waiver program means something to you, this is your chance to make it happen. This is not something that occurs anywhere except in all 122 districts. How many calls have you gotten? Mama needs to be on assisted living. She's out of money. And guess where Mama winds up? In a nursing home. Assisted living is $1,100 a month. A nursing home is $7,200 a month.
Representative Sam Mims says he's hoping to add more money, but not now. Mims assured the House he is talking to Medicaid about the issue and understands their concerns.
Again, knowing that the chairman and I understand what the lady and what the gentleman are talking about, and again, we do know that it brings value to our citizens in Mississippi, but today I'm asking to vote against the amendment.
The amendment failed. The House passed the Medicaid budget without changes, 97-11.
97 yeas, 11 nays. Bill passes. Next item.
Over in the Senate, budget talks continue. Mississippi's Department of Public Safety received a $4 million increase that raised its budget to $91.5 million. The agency is facing criticism for long lines at driver's license offices. It also handles firearm permits. DPS requested money to increase salaries, but Republican Senator Chad McMahon of Guntown says it's not a money problem.
We don't have a money problem over at the licensing department. We have a personnel problem. And the personnel problem is that someone made a poor decision, and they didn't own that decision. And now the people of Mississippi who are carrying a firearm permit are having to suffer because someone's not been able to repair or fix that in a timely manner.
Earlier in the session, Department of Corrections Commissioner Felicia Hall asked lawmakers for salary increases to resolve a system-wide staffing shortage. Hall says the shortage is affecting safety and services for inmates.
We're not able to fulfill some of the missions in our institution, that we're not, that public safety is at a great risk, knowing that our facilities are understaffed, and it poses risk to the people working in our system, to the people housing in our system, and to the overall public. So we have to address this, and we do believe that, money is not the solution to all problems. We do believe that getting those salaries, increased would be a great help for us to be able to fulfill or fill these vacancies that we have. And so we know that the agency is understaffed probably about 48% as a whole across the entire agency. And that's, it poses real safety risk. And so we want to be able to make sure we're not just warehousing people, but that we're providing services to them.
The Department of Corrections is requesting $7 million to cover a deficit for medical costs for inmates. The Senate's budget fills that hole, but Appropriations Chairman Buck Clark says it's likely corrections will not get the salary increases it requested.
And so usually if you got a $7 million deficit one year, you need to add that deficit money to the next year just to keep them even. You see what I'm saying? So they're saying that, and I think the bulk of it is on medical costs, what they need to make it through June 30th. And again, it's kind of a moving number right now. It's what I'm hearing. I don't know if it'll end up being $7 million in the deficit or what we can add. But they're another one you're talking about pay with those corrections officers making in the low 20s that they start out at and are in dangerous jobs. And they would be part of any pay increase, obviously, but a lot of issues with corrections right now.
So let's get straight to the point now with views from both sides of the aisle. Brandon Jones is a Democrat. He is an attorney and is a former member of the House. Austin Barber is a national Republican strategist and the founder of the Clearwater Group. Austin, Brandon, good to have you with us as always.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let's start with state employee pay raises. Brandon, it's been a while. It's an election year, but it's looking grim.
Yeah, as you heard a moment ago, 25,000 employees. These people are asked to do important jobs like work at Medicaid, Department of Public Safety. They are the first line of defense when you need help from an agency or whenever you need these various services. And it's been well over a decade since they had any type of uptick in their funds. This isn't unlike the conversation that we're going to be having today and that we have each week on this show. Mississippi's budget is troubled. Austin, we talk about the employment numbers. Employment is up, not only in Mississippi, but across the country. We talk about some of these other economic indicators that seem to be looking upward in other areas. For some reason, Mississippi does not have the budget movement to be able to do these basic things that other states are going to do. So you have to ask yourself why. Why is Mississippi's budget situation so strange at a time when other economic indicators are pointing up? And the reason is we have irreparably broken our budget by giving away taxes, giving away revenue. And so now we have very little flexibility in what would otherwise be a very good time. And here's another one of the victims of that, public employees who do serious work, tremendous job on a shoestring budget. And it looks like they're going to be perhaps, one of the sad stories of this session.
It's where Brandon and I just disagree on this. I think it's pretty clear that our revenue numbers are up, and I think that they're up because taxes are down and people are spending more money, and small businesses and big businesses and in between are able to hire more people, invest more in their business. But we'll politely disagree on that. Look, I took some notes on my phone. And when I was listening to Buck Clark and John Reed, of course, they're both the Appropriations Chairman in the House and the Senate. And Senator Clark clearly stated we had $160 million, let's just say surplus money. And here are the things that we had to spend it on. Well, first of all, the first $60 million had to go to PERS. We talked about PERS last week, I believe, and I called it a ticking time bomb. Well, you can see now why. They had to go write a $60 million check to cover, I'm going to just use the word overages, that's probably not fair, but additional costs that they had on top of their budget. And that will only grow unless we get PERS fixed. But so the first $60 million goes there. The teacher pay raise goes next. That's $25 million. They plussed every agency at least up to where they were last year, or what they were pretty much asking for, as close as they could.
Level funding.
Yeah, level funding. And then there were other additional costs that ate up probably the balance of $25 million. That's $160 million. It goes pretty quickly. But what he said was, in March, early March, so that's about 1 week from now, the budget folks are going to come. They're going to look at the tax collections that we're taking in and see, can we raise the revenue estimates? Are the revenue estimates up? And if they are, which John Reed clearly thinks they will, and so does Buck Clark, state employee pay raise is the number one issue we're going to discuss. That is from Senator Clark, who's very conservative, very cautious, and I think that's wise. But you hear Representative Reed saying, we're going to make it happen. So if I'm a state employee, yeah, there's no question I'm nervous until it happens. But I think there is optimism in what I heard those two gentlemen say.
So who do you blame, Brandon, for the situation that we're in now, if revenue is good and yet there's not enough money for these raises?
Legislature. I mean, we've got another tax cut that's coming on the books in July, and we didn't talk about that yet, but it's going to mean an additional $100 or so million that we don't have available in revenue for this year. That number continues to escalate until we get to about 2029, when it kind of levels out at $400 million per year. Now, what Austin's talking about, and that those gentlemen were celebrating, is $160 million income over what was expected, tax money that that's over the estimate. That's about 1% of a $6.1 billion budget. That's not that great. And when we start to layer in these tax cuts and it gets up as high as $400 million in 9 years, you get a sense, the accumulative effect of all that. This economy is not performing at a rate that's going to be able to keep track with Republican tax cuts. And we're going to have a situation very similar to what we saw in Kansas and Louisiana. And of course, in Louisiana, we saw where a Democrat had to be elected to the governor's mansion to kind of right the ship a little bit. But we're in a bad situation. It's bad whenever every economic bit of news you get is positive, and yet we can't do anything. That tells you something's wrong in Mississippi.
He's my friend, but I just disagree. Him, that guy over there. So I don't think I don't think we're in a bad situation. I'm glad that there is a surplus versus a deficit situation. I look at people like Drew Snyder, who's the head of the Division of Medicaid, who's really been very smart with policy decisions that they've made, creative with policy decisions that they've done to cut cost at Medicaid, which less money spent at Medicaid are either more dollars they can use there or dollars that they can send to help with a public employee pay raise. So I think we've always said this for however many years we've been doing the show. Let's wait till the final gun is shot at the end of the session before we give a lot of praise or cast blame.
Austin, when and in what manner will lottery money, once lottery ticket sales begin in Mississippi, when and how will that affect our budget situation?
Well, it's a great question, and it's a big unknown. We've all paid attention to the lottery. It's been a conversation for years. It finally passed in August. Of course, if you remember, the first $85 million in proceeds that they bring in, that's the money that's left, basically your net dollars that are left. That's the first $85 million goes towards roads and bridges. That was the big part of the special session in August, of a big chunk of the money every year that will go to roads and bridges. Anything over $85 million, of course, will go to early childhood education. And my guesstimate, it's going to take 2 or 3 years to get to that number, because that's probably $450 to $500 million in total lottery ticket sales to be able to have that net dollar left. So it's going to be a while. I know the governor has pushed the Lottery Commission really hard to get lottery sales kicked off this year. My guess is it'll happen September, October, probably by Halloween if I had to guess. Brandon can dress up for Halloween as a scratch-off ticket. But that's my guess is it will happen, and it'll be good news. The Lottery Commission has some really professionals who are doing a good job with it, and I think they'll be on pace by Halloween.
When casinos came along, that was going to be the magic bullet that would fix all our problems.
Yeah.
Some people have spoken about the lottery in the same way. Might we be expecting too much?
Well, if they're expecting it to fix all their problems, then yeah, they're expecting too much. But I want to say a word about Representative Alice Clark, who serves right here in Jackson. She is the godmother of the Mississippi State Lottery. She has been calling for this. She's seen the positive effects in Georgia. She's seen the positive effects in Louisiana and people pouring over the border to buy their tickets, and said, you know, why would we be giving that revenue away? I think that in a state like Mississippi, because whether you agree with me or Austin about where we are, I think we all agree we need to have every tool in the toolbox to try to address the various funding needs that we have as a state. And this is one of them. I don't think it'll be a panacea. I don't think that it's going to knock out even roads and bridges. But I do think it's another bit of help. And we do know that Mississippians like buying lottery tickets, and they're going to buy tickets, and that's going to create revenue.
At least now they'll be buying them in Mississippi. Let's talk about the so-called brain drain bill. We talked about tax cuts. This isn't a cut. It is a tax incentive, though. One of the things it would offer is tax incentives for college graduates if they stay in Mississippi after they graduate, that they would not have to pay state taxes if a number of conditions are met. Can the state afford something like that?
I appreciate the effort. Let me say that. I don't know is the answer. It's another tax cut. I mean, it's another tax break. I mean, this legislature's answer to every problem is a tax break. And I think they're kind of a one-trick pony in that respect. But this is a huge issue for Mississippi. Between
brain drain.
Brain drain. Between 2010 and 2015, we lost somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.6 billion in revenue.
Because of people leaving the state.
People leaving, due to out-migration, as the budget office calls it. I think from 11 to 16, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 people. I know it was a population about the size of Tupelo. Now, Mississippi is unique in the United States because we're the only state that is losing people at that clip. And so when people
West
talk
Virginia
about...
may argue.
Well, according to the census, we got the numbers. Now, there's another census coming up, so
Sure.
that's true.
Sure.
But by any measure, Mississippi is hemorrhaging brain power and thought leaders at a rate that is different than other states. And there again, we have to ask ourselves why. I don't think it's as simple, Wilson, as one economic policy. I don't think it's as simple as one move here or there. Not only is it an economic issue, it's quality of life. You know, if we don't get education right, then people aren't going to stay. Roads and bridges is part of it. Also the backward-looking stuff, Austin, this business of having a rebel flag, this business of having what people see as kind of a regressive worldview, you know, taking on bathrooms and who should go into which one, these kind of social warfare things. Look, in the same way that businesses don't want to come to states like that, individuals don't want to raise families in places that are looking backwards.
I think the foundation of how we reverse the brain drain begins and ends. I want to make sure I really believe this before I say it, but it's so dependent on what our colleges do, what Ole Miss, what Southern, what State, what Jackson State. All of our four-year universities are focusing on, and even our junior college and community college system, they have got to do a better job, okay, as a whole, of recruiting and keeping the best students in Mississippi. Okay, that is so important, because if I graduated from Ole Miss, and more than likely, if I would have gone off to Auburn or Alabama or Stanford or wherever, it's much more difficult for me to have turned around after college and say, I'm going back to Mississippi. But when I graduate from a university in Mississippi, a private school or a public school, I'm much more likely to stay here. And so I think so much of this has got to be driven by recruitment by our particularly our four-year universities, particularly Ole Miss State and Southern, Jackson State, Alcorn State. They have got to do, some of them are doing a better job than others, and I'm not going to name names, but they all have really got to focus on that. And then we just got to have more dynamic thought, both with state government and the private sector, of new big deals, new research and development, new ideas to create one job or 10,000 jobs in the state. Those are all really important.
Is there something else that the legislature could or should be doing to help alleviate this problem?
I don't know. A lot of times if the government will just stay out of the way and let the private sector handle it, everything will be fine. I think if the legislature, though, does have conversations with the leadership at our universities to say, guys, and again, some of them are doing a really good job, focus on recruiting as hard as you can our high school students, The ones that you know are the best already, or the ones that you see, you know, this kid may have a C+ average, but man, he's the you know, a letterman in 3 sports, the Boy Scouts, all this stuff. Let's keep him here. Those are the things that really matter to me.
Brandon, is there something else the legislature might do?
Well, Austin's made some good points there. I think our universities have a big role to play. But yeah, the legislature does have a big role to play. And then part of what I referenced a moment ago, I think the legislature could do, and that's maybe more qualified as something they shouldn't do. They ought to be selective in the social battles that they pick. I mean, we got to be careful with the social engineering via the Mississippi legislature, because the students, the bright, innovative mind that Austin just described, we don't always see that on display at that state capitol. And so those folks need to pick their battles. We need to pay attention to how we do symbology. We need to pay attention to how we represent ourselves. I think in some areas we do that really well. Arts and music, Mississippi is beyond peer. But whenever it comes to things like, again, I know I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but things like the state flag, things like taking up an abortion bill every couple of hours, things like taking on these social issues and, you know, kind of branding this us and them mentality in politics. I think the extent to which all of our politicians, both regionally and locally, could kind of back off some of that. And as Austin says, allow some things to just take place organically, allow some places to thrive on their own. Perhaps that would be at least part of the answer. But I want to go back to the question you originally asked. I don't think that this is a bad effort, and I think it's well intended.
All right, Brandon, Austin, thank you both. Thank you for watching. We're out of time. You can watch this program on our website, mpbonline.org/issue, and we invite you to join us again next Friday evening for another edition of At Issue. Good night.